Pause. There we go. All right. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. This week we are back with the talk show that takes you behind the authors and professionals in the publishing
What is that?
I love that. There's always a technical difficulty.
What is that? What is
I don't know. That's awesome. Let me know when it stops.
It stopped.
Ah, perfect. Okay. That's what you get for doing a live show, right? There's always some technical difficulty. So anyways, as I said, welcome to Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. And clearly we are not professional today, are we?
No, not at all. Not today.
Not at all. Well, I'm back again, as always, with Jason. How we doing? Did you guys warm up over there?
We got warm, but today it was kind of cold rain, which was a bummer because I was out working on landscaping in the front yard. But I'm doing well. It's tulip time in Holland, which is like the 5th biggest festival in the country, something like that. So there's thousands and thousands of tourists here clogging up the streets and checking out all our beautiful buildings and tulips, of course. So I've eaten pounds and pounds of elephant ears, which is why I had to stop the camera right about here because we don't want to see what's below that. It's not good.
So I take it then you're not summer body ready?
Well, my summer body is going to be more like a Jabba the Hutt kind of style. I'm taking the dad bod to the next level.
Own it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. And you guys might remember Jane Taylor. She's been on a few times. She's done some guest hosting for us. We've done some interviews with her. How are we doing, Jane?
We're doing really good. It was rainy here today too, but finally the Northeast got some warm weather this past week. Otherwise, I just can't wait for summer to come. I know it's summer out where you are, Katie, but it's still colder than I like.
You're talking about, or Jason was just talking about doing landscaping, and all week long, the house down the street has had landscapers out, and it's been 100+ degrees every single day. And as I drive by, I'm like, I feel so sorry for those guys. I'd be dead.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I don't know how you work in that kind of heat. I mean, that's got to be kind of dangerous, I would think, to work in that type of heat.
I don't know how they do it either. I mean, it's brutal. And we're not talking about, overcast or anything like that. It is sun beating down on you 100+ degrees already.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Well, Jackie, you're from Vegas too, right? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. I'm definitely from Vegas, and I'm used to the heat, man. I haven't had AC in my car in about 3 years. So I'm just used to the heat. I work in it also, so I'm pretty much out there, man. You just put the window down and drive fast. Anyway, this is my first time on here. I'm Jackie Carr, author out of Las Vegas. I'm a YA sci-fi fantasy author. I am the author of the Martyr series. For anyone who's into, who grew up playing Final Fantasy, Chrono Cross, games of that nature, watching Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, anything like that, I'd probably be right up your alley. So, this is my first time on here. So
awesome.
Now, it sounds a lot to me like almost like the manga or anime, like graphic novel style. Is it a novel or is it actually like graphic?
Well, I tried to keep Martyr like YA for a reason. I don't want to go too dark into that one. There is some violence, and I like detailing all my blood and everything. It's artsy to me. But but it's not that graphic. My next series, if we get into talking to that one will not be for the high school kids, and I won't be promoting that one there. That one's, Game of Thrones meets Dark Souls, meets Castlevania. It's going to be very mature. So I kept that one teen for a reason.
They actually both series, that one and the one that you are writing, sound extremely interesting. I like the the sound of the next very violent one. I think what Katie was asking though is. Are these text novels, or do they have a lot of illustrations in them? Are they more graphic novels?
They're definitely novels. There's really no illustrations. I keep it dog. Not that I'm against that. That'd be cool. I want to start branching out to other genres, and even like authors and not authors, you know, illustrators and stuff like that, musicians and things like that, like film. You know, like I want to write TV and, you know, things like that. So I'm definitely open to doing stuff like that. But no, these are just straightforward novels. You know,
That's awesome.
Screenplay writing, like TV writing, it's similar but different.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I kind of like the whole screenplay style because it's just the dialogue. You know, there's a lot less scene setting, and you just really get to know the characters through what they're saying.
Right. I kind of think more novels now in general are for me now, they're very dialogue driven. You know, I don't think per se you can really write like Stephen King anymore. I don't think people's attention spans are that. You know, I don't think people want to read a whole page about the color of the snow. You know, so I have a lot more, and the pacing's a lot quicker. You know what I mean? And I do a lot of character development through interaction and stuff like that. It's very dialogue heavy. When we're almost done editing Martyr stuff, since it's taken way longer than it should have, but that's a good thing because I love my editor. Her name is Samantha LaFantasy. She's like, she slowed down and was like, I'm gonna work with you. I think you got something here and I want to see you rush it out, work with you. So anyway, but she said, yeah, you're very dialogue heavy. She's like, you have great dialogue, but you're very dialogue heavy. You know, make sure you put a little detail and work in there.
And that's not really a problem too. I notice a lot of readers like faster paced books.
Right.
So dialogue heavy is not a bad thing as long as you do have a little bit of the setting in there.
Right.
But not the hand holding like you're talking about with some of the older, like an Anne Rice. I mean, she would describe everything to the nth degree. And as much as I loved her books, in today's reading style, it's like, okay, let me just start scanning. I want to get to what they're saying rather than describing everything that's going on around them. I just need a glimpse of it.
And it's funny that you mentioned Stephen King, because that's always who I mention when I'm talking about somebody who's a little overly descriptive. And I love King. I mean, I grew up reading his books. He's a big inspiration to me for wanting to write, but they're very slow to read. Right. The stories are usually fantastic. They're really, really well rounded. You know, obviously tons of detail, but they are slower. All that description really slows down your brain and keeps you from building up the suspense, which it really is what keeps someone in the book, is that suspense.
Right. We had another author on balance not too long ago who had mentioned about the psychology of writing and how sometimes leaving little blanks and little gaps is actually better for the reader because their brains will fill it in, and it makes it more interactive as a reader when they don't necessarily have 100% of the details.
Right. Sure. Well, now I have a question for you guys, and this is a real deal question from Jason LaVelle, problem that we need to solve here as a group tonight. And you guys should all be honored to be in on this because it's huge. Okay. So I usually write more thriller kind of things, and I try to have a lot of good characterization in there. I try to really dig deep with my characters, but if I'm honest with myself and I'm looking at things, I feel like a lot of what I write is more plot driven, because when I'm seeing the story in my head, I'm not always seeing the characters unfold. I'm seeing events unfold. So I'm trying to put the two together, but it's always a lot of work for me to try to marry that style so that people are happy with it. So, but here's my question. That was just a little backstory. I am starting a news story that I really need a strong emotional connection to the reader. And it's not going to be plot driven. It's completely in the character's head pretty much. So I want to know, what is the best way to get a reader to connect with a character? And bear in mind, I don't have a big plot that I can work with. It's all about this character. How do I make someone love the character?
I think you just pretty much what you need to write is just, you got to be honest with yourself and write anything, just everything you want to portray into that. You need to be honest with that character so people can see that. If it's just something that's in someone's head so much and not necessarily plot driven, you got to make that character human. You got to kind of humanize that character and just make it just very honest and natural. When people are reading this, and then even bad thoughts, even negative thoughts, we all have them. A lot of writers, they don't want to show that. Even my protagonist, they have issues. You know, no one in my stories are perfect. I don't believe in that. I believe everything's balanced for me. So I think under those situations, and that's kind of how I approach my characters too, keep him honest, even if he's a good guy. You know what I mean? There are things about that character your reader may not like. They're not supposed to like everything, and that makes that character more believable. And therefore they can connect better with that person, and they'll buy into what you're trying to do. You know.
Now, is there a certain when you're reading a book, Jackie, is there a certain point of view that you feel like you connect with better? Because a lot of people say they love to write first person or they love to read first person, and I have read some first person books that I really enjoyed, but not all of them. There's some books like, and I'm not gonna rag on Twilight because I actually have read all the Twilight books and I actually enjoyed the series. I didn't mind it at all. But book 2, which was largely the main character lamenting this and that, and
it was a whiny book.
It was very whiny, and you know what? That book took me from enjoying the character to kind of disliking the main character, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm too much in her head. There's too much emotion. There's too much complaining, and so I don't want to do that either. So where do you go? I mean, first of all, where do you go POV style, and then how do you find a balance to where you're giving enough emotion so that the reader understands what you're trying to say, but that you're not drowning them in a bucket of flowers or tears or something?
Right. That's interesting you said that, because my Martyr series is in first person. When I started writing Betwixt the Crowns, that's my dark series. I immediately went to third person. I think first person is a little bit more limited. You know what I mean? And I kind of like the I forgot what they called it. Starts with an O. Omniscient.
Oh, yeah. I hate
I like being the one that can tell everybody singing. You kind of get because the character can only see so many things.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're limited to, like, you can't really do big battle scenes that way, or it's very difficult to be able to do those kind of things. I'm trying to answer your question in the best way that I can, but in that situation, I write actually from third person.
Okay.
Because you can get out of the character's head and bring in other influences and other voices to keep your story interesting, and, like you said, not be too much in that character's head about whatever they're thinking about. You can take it. Yeah. I would completely go with third person in that.
Let me counterpoint to that real quick too, because while first person you are in the character's head, and third person, if you go wide and you go omniscient, then yeah, you're seeing everything. But you can also do a third limited.
Yes, which is what I typically write. Yeah.
And then what you do is you show the character misconstruing what's going on.
Right.
For instance, in one of the books that I'm going to be publishing next month, even my editor at one point, when she was looking at it, she's like, well, why are we forgetting about this battle scene that's going on? I said, because the character's not there. She can't see it. She doesn't know what's going on. She's being pulled away from it. And all of the interactions she has, the whole mistrusting of all the people around her, it's built on because she's only seeing from her perspective. She doesn't know what everyone else's motivations are. And while she goes through and she starts going, well, this has got to be the bad guy for this, she's slowly learning what really is going on behind the scenes. And at the end, you figure it all out. And I think that helps you too into getting into the character's head, is seeing how they kind of screw it up.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple of things there. That third person limited is probably my favorite place to write, because what I like to do is I like to have it's funny. I've got my pen poised above my notepad as if I'm writing notes for you guys, as if you could see my notepad. It's ridiculous. Anyhow, so I like to take my main character, and my main character, I can see their thoughts, I can see everything to do with them, but I can also describe them from the outside, and I can describe everything else that's happening with other characters. I just don't get into their heads, because I don't want to confuse people too much. But I really do feel like that's my favorite writing space. However, what I was unsure of is, is that the best way to connect with someone? Because I really want to develop this connection with the readers on this story, and it's more important to me with this one than ever. Go ahead, G.
In that respect, I'm thinking that, when you're trying to do your character, the one thing that you got to do is have visceral reactions and hit the reader viscerally, emotionally, not necessarily, you know, teary-eyed or whatever, but to have the real power of connection. It's
Yes, but how to get that
between third person, you know,
That's
between
what I
third
want.
person, I know, between third person, I think it's harder in some cases than first, because I used to write whole, you know, totally in third person, and then I had to do my son's series with him in first, and I actually ended up liking it because you have that person's view. And I hate whiny people, so I don't allow them to be too whiny. But when, you know, when the, you know what, hits the fan, you kind of have to have them live that and walk that walk.
Yeah,
and feel it, and you have to show them that instead of, you know, just glossing it over on the page, which is the part of it that I think connects with the readers more than, you know, the descriptions and all of that. Just, you know, have them react like humans.
Well, okay, so and I'm good with that. I like that. And you know, here's another question, because Jackie just a little bit ago was talking about dialogue, and so we kind of started talking about a little bit of dialogue versus just straight prose. Now, if I'm in this person's head, if I'm omniscient, if I can see in their head and their thoughts, and they're kind of narrating things as we go, and they're telling us their thoughts, do I want to have more or less of that? Do I want to describe in great detail these things that could be good or bad that's happening, or do I want to spend more time on the characters' reactions to the things that are happening?
I would say the characters' reactions as opposed to the omnipotent narrative.
Okay.
I would lean more towards character reactions, but like that's been my thing, is finding the balance between, you know, providing that atmosphere, moving plot forward, and having characters have because the way I approach my dialogue is every line needs to feel like someone wants something from someone else. They're saying something for a reason. It's witty, it's snappy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so even if you're just reading a conversation, it's entertaining to read, because you're like, why did this person ask this question?
They're always angling at each other.
Right. Like that's kind of the way, because even your dialogue needs to be entertaining, I think. But
yep, and you have to have tension. Yeah.
Never directly answer the question either.
Even simple conversations. There's like, I know they're just sitting across from each other having tea, but why am I nervous about this conversation? Like, that's how I want people to feel when they read through my book, you know. And then you add a little bit of atmosphere, but you keep that, you keep that, you know, you keep it moving at a steady pace. That's just a balance you kind of have to find. I think every author on that tip is different.
Okay.
I think at the very start of it, though, you really need to know your character.
Right.
You need to draw up a character sheet. You need to interview your character. You know, it sounds cheesy, but it really does help when you're trying to build that character. What is their motivation? Where have they come from? What has shaped the reason that they act a certain way or they believe a certain thing? If you know it and you've got it written down, then you can put that into the story a little easier, I think, because you can always refer back and go, oh, yes, that's right. This person believes this because this.
Well, and I think that's a really good plan. And now, so this story is going to be kind of important to me. And I can't really tell you why I feel like it's going to be. It just, in my head, it feels like, okay, there's something kind of special going on here with whatever your idiot mind has come up with, Jason. And so I've been running these questions by a couple people, and one of them was my editor, and I'll tell you what her advice to me was. And my editor is Jessica West. She's been on the show as well. And she had some kind of cool advice that went right along with what you were saying, Katie, is she said, write the whole story in first person. Write it all in first person. Get to know your character. Go back through and rewrite the entire thing in third person the way you want to write it.
Wow.
That way you know your character very well, and you can connect with him on a deeper level. Now, this is a short project. I probably should have led with that, Katie. Sorry.
Okay. You want to rewrite the whole book? I'm like,
no. So this will be a novella, a short novella, actually. Just kind of a side project. So no, I definitely wouldn't entertain that kind of idea if it was novel length. But For Katie, for you, that's like what, 8 days of writing? That's nothing for you, right?
No, not even close. I've been so off my game lately.
But anyhow, so that was her idea. And I thought that was really interesting. And it does require a little bit more work, which I'm not really very fond of work, but I thought that was a good idea. Okay, cool. Well, sorry, I got us kind of dragged a little off track here, Katie.
It's like our Doctor Who off track. We went like 30 minutes in the wrong direction.
Don't get me started on that crap, Katie. You know I had to edit that episode.
I bought a Doctor Who dress for Comic-Con. Totally gonna have pictures up from that.
Yes.
I will try and live stream some of it to our channel too.
Nice. I think I might go to Chicago in August, and I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna cosplay up like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I want to see pictures of that.
Because I'm big and bald, and all I need is, like stuff on all over me. What a scarification he's got.
The Guardians are actually gonna. Most of them, I think, are gonna be at Phoenix. I'm gonna try and sneak up there if I get a picture with them.
Shut up. That is.
I know. I'm excited.
Wow.
And that's only 2 weeks away. I'm so excited.
That's cool.
But yeah, we did go completely off track, which is pretty normal for us. But that's what you get. The show was always intended to be a laid back approach, kind of like The View, where we can get to know other authors, go behind the book, like we say.
You? No, Katie.
Like, dude.
What the hell, man?
So you're Oprah then?
Right.
We're more like Star Wars. We're
more like Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I like that one. There you go.
From The View to Star Wars. Right. I don't know how that correlates, but you know what? I'm Chewbacca.
Okay, we'll run with it. I'm good. But yeah, we do have some topics we want to talk about tonight.
But you know what? We should, before we talk about topics, let's have Jane, J.E. Taylor, tell us a little bit about her writing too. Because if you haven't seen the other episodes that she was on, then we might not know a lot about her. So Jane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's awesome, because that jumps right into one of our topics.
All right. I'm an indie author. I write paranormal suspense, romance, horror, thrillers. I like the dark side of things. My latest series is Fractured Fairy Tales, so I'm making them all into paranormal romances. So I have shifters and then magic. I'm alternating between.
And all your main characters have sustained some type of trauma.
Oh, yes.
That caused a break, and like compound fractures, or are we talking just simple stuff?
I'm thinking back to Red, at least that book, in this series, she got a little hurt. I'm not even going to talk about like my first series, Survival Games. That was pretty raw and
I don't
rough.
think I've read that one. Of all your books, I think that's the series I haven't read.
Is that the Naughty series?
Survival Games, Mind Games, and Endgame. It's the Games thriller series. So yes, that's Survival Games is the book that my father told my mother not to read. And it's the only book that my husband hasn't read. He's read everything else I've written because it was so dark. My dad read it.
Quick question. Whose significant others actually read their books?
My husband reads all mine.
My wife has...
Like when we're first writing them, she'll kind of do a quality control thing. I don't think she's read them outside of it. Mm-hmm. Not that she would... I don't know, but she doesn't like that kind of stuff I write anyway. So,
well, that's kind of what my wife does too. She reads them for quality control along the way, but once they're done, it's kind of like, well, she's already read it while I was writing it. So Katie, has your husband ever read one of your stories?
The last one my husband read was Dissension. I think that was the first and the last one that he read, and that was 2014 when I published that one.
Nick, are you sitting right there?
No, he's got the kids.
I changed an ending because my husband yelled at me.
Dang.
He read something earlier, and he got so angry at me, and he said, "I don't read a book to get angry." You need to fix it. I'm like, okay.
You know what? I would have thought that as a compliment. I would have been okay. Like I did my job on that. You know.
Yeah, exactly. If you can make someone angry, then yeah.
Yeah, but he said I left it too open, and he was right. When I look back at it, and I'm like, all right, well, sometimes you got to take the advice of the reader. In that case, it was, that was in my FBI series 1. I didn't have any resolution. I had it in the next book, but I don't. Yeah.
Everyone says they hate cliffhanger, but they still read them.
So you write in a few different genres, Jane, and Jackie also writes in a few different genres. So, and Katie, I know you desperately want to get to your topics, but I'm just not going to let you. Every time you let me speak, we're just freaking going wherever I go. It's like I'm in the TARDIS. And I'm just pulling levers and shit. I don't know where we're going. All right, so do you guys feel, because when I signed with my publisher, they had some unkind words to say to me about fracturing my reader base, about splitting up my genre and confusing readers. So in that wasn't good in their opinion. How do you guys feel it works for you? Do you see any effect, or do people seem to like that they have a couple different directions they can go with your books?
Well, like I read the same thing, that you shouldn't fracture your fan base. You should be, you want to be a fantasy author, be the fantasy author. Be the fantasy author. I do not like that at all, and I strayed away from it. As soon as I read it, I'm like, no, I completely disagree, because, like I said, I want to be honest with my work. If this is something like my short story, Patterson Ruling, it just came to me, and it came to me in the middle of writing the first Martyr book. It just came to me, and I had to write it. It's only like 60 pages, but it was just a drama based in the 1800s in London about a father and his 2 sons, and he was a fisherman, an alcoholic, a womanizer, and he had these 2 sons, and he was never around because he was always out, working and on the sea. And their mother had passed, and the eldest son was in the clergy, and the story was just about him and his father's interactions when the father was grounded because there was an accident, his ship burned down. The story was just about him coming home, and him, a womanizing, boozing hound dog, and his son, who's like, trying to be this stand-up citizen, but just about the interactions. And like, does blood make a difference in who you love? Just about that. But that just came to me, and I felt I had to write it and be honest. I didn't care if it was not in the genre Martyr was written in. Like, I'm not even sure if that should matter. I think you got to write what comes out of you at the time. It
really depends, I think, on your marketing standpoint,
right?
Because the fracturing your reader base is a real thing. However, being true to your story and being passionate about your project is also a real thing. So if you write for passion and you write for creating your art, you have to work that much harder on the marketing side of it. Whereas I think if you write strictly in one genre, you make your marketing a little bit easier.
Yeah, in my case, the traditional romance people, readers, don't transition over to my other stuff, but the other readers transition to the romance one. Because traditional romance is just, they have their own tropes, and if you don't follow them, a lot of the readers get all, up in arms, and I usually don't follow tropes. But I have a thread in all of mine of the, paranormal side, and there is some suspense. Katie, you read the new romance stuff. It's not straight romance. It's more suspenseful and
I like that. Although I gravitate more towards that in my reading. Anyways, I don't like traditional romance.
Right. It's not fluffy. I don't write fluffy.
Katie, have you ever written anything outside of your genre?
Well, see, that's the thing. I call myself a genre blending author because I have a dystopian, I have romance, I have urban fantasy. They all fall into the paranormal or supernatural field. So that's my link between them all.
And you know what's cool about that? Okay, so here, I'm gonna make an admission here that some of you listening and participating might not like. I don't really care for paranormal romance. It's not really my thing. I'm not into it. But one thing I really love are action thrillers and dystopian stuff. And I love anything that has to do with gladiators. And I don't know why, but I've been obsessed with them since forever. Probably Russell Crowe did it to me, you know, a
Oh, I love
decade.
that. I know.
Oh my
I
God,
love that movie.
what an awesome movie that was. But anyhow, so the first book I ever read of Katie's was Dissension, which was in her Chronicles of the Uprising, her dystopian series. And so I totally fell in love with this series. And it's what, 7 or 8 books, something like that, Katie?
No, it's only 6. Only 6.
6? Oh, well,
There's a little short story that's an extra, but that doesn't count.
okay. But anyhow, I love the series. And if I were reading her other books, I wouldn't think that, okay, Katie has this kick-ass dystopian action series. I wouldn't make that connection, because I would say, okay, Katie writes paranormal romance, and I would probably stop there, because when I look at an author, I think, okay, Stephen King horror, Dean Koontz horror, Pierce Brown science fiction, blah blah blah, that, and that's how my brain works. I don't always think that, okay, why don't I check out their other titles and see what they have? So I can understand the fracturing your reader base, even though I do it myself. I mean, I write totally different genres just because it's whatever pops into my head. Hey, that sounds like a great idea to write about today. So while I understand it, I don't follow the advice, and I think that I'm kind of shooting myself in the feet here by doing that. But so I didn't really have a point there or anything, Katie. It's just
that makes a lot of sense, because of the books that I write, the paranormal romance and the urban fantasy, because they are somewhat linked, they tend to feed into each other, whereas my dystopian series does not cross over. I don't see, like on the Alsabots, I don't see any of my other books on the Alsabots for the dystopian series, which kind of sucks.
What were you going to say, Jackie?
Well, you made me think of something, though. But see, at my stage, I'm not worried about selling anything. I just want to put out work, and I just really want people's reactions at this point. I have to see that. You know what I mean? For the people who have read my book, and it's not many of them, because when I first did, because I wrote Martyr back, I published it in 2014, you know, with some publisher that out there, like a little publishing house. They don't really have those anymore. They're a waste of money. This time I did it the right way. I thank Alexa Parody for that. She showed me the way. So, but, you know, where was I going with that? I had to shout out Alexa.
You sound like me now.
Well, yeah.
The train of thought.
Well, okay, so I guess it was splintering your audience. I guess, is that where we were at?
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing, because it's just like, I market all my sci-fi. That's what I market it at. I market the other things. It's like, it's just, that's what it is. They don't have to necessarily correlate. It's just two different things. And it also just shows, hey, look, man, like this guy, I want to be known as a writer, not a fantasy writer. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, whatever this guy does is good. You know, no matter what he's writing. He wrote a space opera, then he wrote a gritty crime drama, and they were both fantastic. Like, that's where I see myself doing. You know, because I also do write for film and television and stuff. I don't want to be the fantasy guy. I want to be able to get a job as, you know, a writer in that structure. And my novels will probably just be a more personal thing that I do. But, you know,
and I like that. I mean, I like it a lot, because that's the other side of the coin. And when I look at, I got a bookshelf behind me that's got all my indie friends on it, and it's got all of my books on it. And if you look at the covers, I mean, it's chaotic, because they're all so different. But at the same time, I've written dragon shifter fantasy for an anthology that my readers would have never picked up before. But all of a sudden, all of these other people that read this anthology will say, oh, okay, Jason LaVelle wrote this story. I kind of like this story. Maybe I'll check out one of his other stories. And that's it. And with Katie, you know, I read Katie's books because I really liked this dystopian action stuff, and I wouldn't have seen her otherwise. So you know, while there's some truth to the fracturing your reader base being bad,
yes,
at the same time, you're going to attract readers in all different areas.
Like, I've never done anything conventional. Like, I just don't work that way. I see everybody doing one thing, I immediately want to do something else. Mm-hmm. You know, so my philosophy about becoming, like, because I want to do this for a living. I want to quit my job. I make good money, but that's not what I want to do. I'm not happy doing it. So my philosophy is, I'm not necessarily trying to sell my work. I'm trying to sell myself as a writer. Like, I want to market myself. I want to be the reason, hey, we want to see Jackie Carr comes and he writes this good stuff. It's not like, oh, we want him for the Martyr series and whatever else he does, we don't care. This like I want to, you know what I mean?
You want to be the brand. You want to be your own brand.
Yes, that's what I'm
and
going.
That's sort of what I've done with Jet Fueled Fiction. Jet Fueled Fiction is my brand. It's paranormal suspense with all the different genres tying into that. So
right.
And you would hope that readers, and I think a lot of readers are savvy enough that once they read something they like from an author, they might go look for it. Or if you've put your back matter listing other books, they'll connect with that if it looks interesting to them.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, Katie, I think we're ready for a topic.
Finally, we're like, 40 minutes into the show. We're finally ready to get to the topics of the day.
I threw branding out there.
Well, you did well. And I've been kind of avoiding this topic, even though Katie warned me a week ago that we want to talk about this, and it's kind of a hot thing on the tip of everyone's tongue in the indie community is Cockygate. Or by Felina, which I really, really enjoy, actually. But so we want to talk about this a little bit tonight. And for those of you who are new to this, Jackie, I know you didn't know a lot about what's going on with Cockygate, as it's being called. There is a woman, Felina Hopkins, who is an author, and she has a very successful series of romance novels called the Cocker Brothers series. And she started to feel like a lot of other authors were taking her cover ideas or her story ideas and publishing material that's similar to it. So in response to that, and with the encouragement of her group of friends and fans, what she did was she went and trademarked her series name, the Cocker Brothers, which is great.
That's a smart
it's
business
done by
to do that with the series name.
That's perfectly normal. It's done by publishing houses. It's done by movie studios all the time, and that's cool. But what she also did was she trademarked the word cocky as it relates to book covers and specifically any type of romance series. And that's a big deal. Yeah. Because cocky is a word that's used in a lot of romance novels because readers like it. Readers like seeing the cocky billionaire this or that. And it's a word in regular use in the English language. So we wanted to touch on this a little bit for those of you who may be new to it or maybe have been following it. Jane, what are your thoughts on Cockygate?
Well, and
be nice, because we don't want to be bullies, but we.
No, I'm still trying to figure out what, unless you've got like a movie deal and merchandising, what the value of a trademark really is. So I'm trying to siphon through that. I can understand trademarking your logo and trademarking things like that because I work in corporate America and understand that. But getting to that point and then choosing a single word because other people have used it on their covers.
Well, what I think
that's where I think it crosses a line.
Yeah, and what I think the idea is, or at least how it comes across to probably a lot of people, is that he's trying to drive out any competition to further her own book sales, which is contrary to what she's been saying, which is, I'm just trying to defend myself from people who could be trying to plagiarize me or play off my success. I think the ridiculous part of this is that this type of thing happens to all of us as authors.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone who uses the same cover model as you, or who has a similar title, or who has a storyline that might be similar to yours. And it's not because we're stealing your ideas. It's not.
stock photos are stock photos.
That's right. And there are only so many great stock photos out there.
Yeah, exactly.
When this topic is brought up, it just from what it stems from. I just think of just the legality of it. I'm trying to look at it now. Like how can you just like that's like copywriting Star. So Star Wars, no one else can use the word Star or that. That doesn't make sense.
No, typically you're not supposed to be able to not copyright. We got to be clear on this. Trademark, not copyright, because they're two different things. Right. But typically you can't get a copyright on just a word. Now, a phrase, like let's say the Cocker brothers, which is what her series title is, that's fine. That's a unique phrasing that's specific to her genre or specific to her brand, and that's fine. But cocky, that's a whole different story. And I don't know how she managed to get that trademark through, as well as the trademark for the mark itself, meaning the stylistic version of that. So using the font specifically.
Yeah, and that's and there's no way that's going to stick, because I think that while I haven't seen any validation of it, but I have seen several posts pop up that claim to be from the artist of that particular font, that it says right in our user agreement, you cannot trademark this font for any reason, because it's theirs. They created it. But yeah, so the whole thing has gotten pretty ridiculous, and of course there is a lot of backlash for her out there. I don't know that she expected to see quite so much of it. She's obviously a very successful indie author. Otherwise, she wouldn't have tried to take such a leap. But the other thing is this kind of thing is, in my understanding, it's also retroactive. So since she now owns the word cocky, other romance novels that were written before her series, which was only published a couple years ago, are all of a sudden, sorry, you've got to change your title. Even though I wrote my book in 2016, but your book that you wrote in 2000, sorry, you've got to change the title of it because I now own this word.
I didn't think that was the case.
Me neither.
No?
I thought it was from point forward, and they couldn't go after the retroactive stuff.
But I think she was.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I think and that was what the big problem is, because you shouldn't be able to go after anything before your time.
Right.
And if she did, it wouldn't hold up in court at all.
Right. And I think she was just doing it to try to protect her brand, and to probably, I don't want to, I know Jason already said it, but it might have been a play to knock out competition, which.
No.
I'd like to think people aren't like that, but I've seen too much of it lately.
There was a really well-written response to Cockygate just in general that had been floating around the internet a couple days ago, and I liked the way the author had kind of framed it. And it wasn't that they didn't accuse her of being cocky, that maybe she was misinformed. That, if you've been in the indie author circle for a long time, you kind of build that tribe of people that we're all going through the same thing. We're all having the same types of struggles as we produce multiple books. And sometimes, we see things like, oh man, this cover's so similar to mine, or this theme is similar to mine. And we kind of vent about it, and we keep it to ourselves because we know this is part of the business. And maybe she didn't have that. And maybe the outside influences of those who are not in the industry and don't know how the industry works might have been kind of, putting the thoughts in her head that, oh yeah, you're being copied. You need to file this to protect yourself. And maybe she just kind of jumped the gun on it. Now, we don't know if that was what happened or not. But if that is the case, it just proves that people in the industry really do need to be active in the industry. They need to take time to learn. They need to take time to work with their peers, because we're not in competition with each other. Right. The more we work together and the more we improve our craft together, the more valid being an indie author becomes. We started out with the Scarlet Letter because we didn't get vetted through the normal publishing system. But over the years, indies have become really good, and we only get better working together and learning and using what we've learned to create and produce more work.
And I think that's really what the indie community should be about, and not just indies. I mean, we talk about indies a lot on this show. And I love indie authors, but I'll tell you what, authors that work with big publishing houses or small publishing houses, it doesn't matter. We are all artists doing the same thing, trying to share our stories with other people. And Jackie, I think that you said it very well when you said that you're not necessarily concerned with selling. You just want to share your work and get your work out there for people to read and to love and to react to. And when I published my first book, that's all I wanted. My goal was to have, X amount of people read my book, and I was going to be happy. And right. I think that as we go on and grow and it turns into a business, that maybe we lose sight of some of that. Maybe we lose sight of some of the art and focus too much on the business, because you know what? We all have bills to pay. I mean, my freaking mortgage and motorcycle payment kill me every damn month. I mean, it's killing me. But we got to remember that we are all part of the same community, no matter if you're making $1 million a year or 10 off your books.
All writers, regardless of indie or not. I mean, my original tribe was a bunch of traditionally published authors through Backspace.org, and that was, Jonathan Mayberry, Karen Dion, Sarah Gruen, these big name. They're big name now, but they were just starting moving up the chain too. So, and they didn't have a huge indie view, so it was kind of tough being one of the only indies in there. But I learned enough about the art and the craft, and then then I found the indie pocket of people to learn the business. So.
You both actually, both Jason and you both actually said something that reminded me of something. For Jason, okay, so it all depends on how you want to measure success. We all need to make money, but I'm not getting into this to become Stephanie Meyer rich. I wouldn't even know what to do with that much money. I just like writing. We all got to make a living, but if I can make as much money as I make now with books alone, I think I've made it. You know what I mean? I'm fine. I don't need $10 million, and for what, I'm sorry, what was her name? What was her name again?
Jane,
okay. For what you said, that was my focus too. After I released my first book, I did it all on my own. I wasn't really active in the community. I didn't really know anyone. Katie was actually the first person I met on my first little, I forgot where it was, a little book thing I did. I didn't know anybody, and I didn't really feel like I needed to get out. So I'm writing my books and doing my thing. Over the years, I figured out that's not how it works. You need to be more active with everybody. And that's why me and Alexa started talking. We've been texting. She kind of helped me, guided me along. You've done so too, Katie, but more so it hurts even, But, and I'm kind of thankful for that. But So when I released my first book in 2014, it didn't take me 3 years to write my next book. It took so long because I took a step back from everything. And I was looking at what everybody else is doing. You guys, Katie, I was looking at Katie and Alexa a lot. A couple other authors, Drew, Sarah, a couple of these guys. I'm like, and I read a couple of their work, and I'm like, what are they selling and why? Why are they selling? Why are their stories so appealing to people? Let me sit back and learn the craft before I jump back into this, and then want to, and that's what I did. I also been writing 2 books for the last 2 years, by the way, because Martyr's Substance kind of broke off into Betwixt the Crowns, and I've been doing both. I'm very bad at writing 2. I like writing 2 things at the same time. My brain splits, so I like it. It's good. But it was just I took a step back and just analyzing everything, and focusing on the craft of writing. And actually, when I get back into this, I'll be ready to come do this show with Katie to speak and tell me about what we're trying to do as authors. And that's where I am today. Well, yeah.
And that's absolutely it. You do need to be active in the community, not just for yourself and your craft, but again, it's that sharing of knowledge, because something you have learned along your path might help somebody else.
Right.
And it makes us all look better in the outcome because we're all producing better quality work. Now, on the flip side, when an indie author pulls something like this, it makes us all look like little schoolyard bullies again, because we're doing something that is affecting a huge portion of the community negatively. And that's where the real downside of this is. The author aside, the implications of trademarking such a commonly used term, right now it's in the romance genre. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not my pool, I don't have to worry about it. But who's to say somebody in sci-fi doesn't trademark something like you said, star, you know, or somebody in dystopian, you know, renegades or rebellion, you know, any of these commonly used phrases, it can affect other genres. And so it's good that we're talking about this because we can get the word out, maybe help educate people. And then, you know, on the other side of it too, what do you do if you're affected by this? Most indies don't have a budget for a lawyer.
Right.
How do you fight it? What do you do? A lot of them just caved in when Felina sent those notices to her and changed their titles. Book covers aren't cheap. They're not free.
No, they're
Title,
not.
your book cover, you lose a lot of your ranking when you do that. You lose your name recognition. People remember your titles for what they are, and you're out the money that you've spent on any promotional materials, the cover art itself, anything that's attached to that.
Oh yeah. Changing cover art is not not without its cost.
Wow.
So, and then that's really the crux of it is it's going to create ripple effects into the other genres. It affects us all. How this is handled can be, you know, what happens to us in a year from now. It could be what happens to the next genre. You know, it's good to be talking about it. It's good to be educated about it so we can figure out what to do if and when this comes up again, because there's a new cocky author every year.
See, Jason, now I know why you wanted to avoid this topic. This is a very it's like I'm actually my mind's reeling about this. I'm like, now I gotta look into this. And now I got something.
Yeah. Well, it's like how many trademark filings are there going to be?
Usually, when I don't know, I don't speak, and that saves me from having my foot in my mouth. And right now, honestly, I don't know. You know, how do you protect yourself against this? I don't have these answers. I never had to deal with anything like this before. You know, it's something we all definitely need to look into. Like Katie said, educate yourself about. But
as an indie, let's say you got a notice today, Martyr was just trademarked. What do you do? And they say you have to change your title.
Well, you know me, I just call and yell at people, but then what do you mean? Like, published in 2014, as old as crap. Like, I'm not changing.
And that's honestly, that's actually the right response. Is you respond back with, you know, you give me some proof, you give me some reasonings. I want to see some actual legal filings before I do anything you say. You put the back on them, because a trademark dispute like this should not hold up in court. And right now, the RWA has actually taken it upon themselves to make this case. They are gathering information. They are presenting it to an intellectual property lawyer. So it is being handled. And Amazon has stopped pulling books down for the cocky cover issue. So it is being handled. But for those authors who got that initial notice directly from Felina, some of them just went, oh my God, I don't know what to do, and opted to change covers.
Well, and because it was very scary. It wasn't just an off-the-cuff email that she sent. It was a very legit email because she actually did trademark the word cocky. So, I mean, she's talking about the Federal Trademark Office and shit like that, and lawyers and suing people for all the monies they've earned. And it would be terrifying to get that email. There are other books that have similar titles to mine. In fact, I found one book that has exactly the same title as mine. It was published right around the same time as well. So, but it's nothing like mine. Right. And I actually read it because I was like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And I've wondered, I was like, man, you know, what would I do if this other author ever sent me an email and said, hey, you know, why you have the same book title as me, you know, WTF, you know, what are we going to do about this? I'm like, man, I don't have any idea how I would respond to something like that, because my initial reaction to things is usually anger. I get mad. You know, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to screw me over out of something? And I think that's the way a lot of people probably react to Felina's messages. But then the fear kicks in. You know, did I do something wrong? Right. Am I at fault here? I don't want to be screwing someone else over. What if I did something because I'm an indie, I'm new to this, and I didn't know that I was breaking the law or breaking a trademark or making a trademark infringement? So it's got to be really scary for people. And I don't know what the right answer is, because like you said, Katie, we don't have budgets for lawyers. I don't have money to pay a lawyer to go to court. Even if I win my case, you're still out that money for your lawyer. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a frustrating time. And I pray that this all gets resolved quickly, because it is like a frickin' train wreck. And even though I'm not a romance author, I'm not directly affected yet.
Right.
It could happen down the road.
Exactly.
So,
Well, and it goes back to that point of being active in the community. You know, if you were an indie author and you got that letter and you didn't know what to do, if you've got your tribe of people, you can go to them and talk to them and get some advice from them. And, you know, a lot of indies, we're interconnected. We know lawyers, we know artists, we know a lot of people in the system. So if you go to that tribe and you know, try and figure it out, they'll be able to give you helpful advice rather than instantly freaking out and feeling alone by it. You don't have to take immediate action. You can, you know, slowly get the right information. And again, being active in the community is one of the best ways to do that.
and the easiest way to be active really is ask one of your indie friends. If you see us on this show, any of us, say, hey, I'm having a problem with something. Can you point me in the right direction? And more oftentimes than not, we're going to know somebody, or we're going to know a group that you can join, that you can ask a question to, and they're going to be able to help you. There are
you guys said she got a lot of backlash from her actions. You guys said she received a lot of backlash from her actions through the community.
Well, she's getting a lot of angry responses from people, especially all over social media, as you would expect for something like this. And it sucks, but we can understand why people are angry. So I don't know what kind of legal ramifications there might be in the future. But one thing that I foresee is that with as much heat as she is drawing to herself, negative energy from everyone else, I have a hard time thinking that any major publishers or anyone else is really going to want to mess with her in the future, which is unfortunate because, you know, once you've got a bad mark against you, people are less likely to want to work with you, especially when there's a million other authors out there.
You guys think what she did was just in any manner? Like,
I think that well, you know, I and Katie and I have been reading articles on this. She sent me a couple, and I was looking at covers that were supposedly copies of hers, and there was one series that was posted that was really neat because both an author before her published the book with a certain model in a certain pose. You know, he's hunky guy standing looking all cocky. Then she published a novel using the same model in a very similar pose with font that was very similar. And then someone else published another one. And it's just the way shit goes.
Right.
It's the genre that she's writing in.
Yeah.
You know, and that whole trope she has, there's only so many stock photos that you can pick from that would personify that.
Yeah, there's an expectation for each genre as to the look and feel of books. And, you know, romance is kind of pigeonholed into that, you know, either hot guy half naked on the front cover or a couple kissing or, you know, something obviously romantic. And, you know, that's just kind of what readers expect to see on those covers.
But to answer your question, Jackie, I think that not copywriting, keep saying that, trademarking the phrase the Cocky Brothers, which is the name of her series, I think that is completely legitimate because that's hers. She created the Cocker Brothers series. That's her baby. That's her artwork. However, she didn't create the word cocky.
Nor did she create that.
She didn't create the idea cocky, you know? So, and so while I think half of what she did was fine, trademarking her series title, the other half was totally not cool. And I'm really hoping that it gets reversed on appeal, and then everyone can stop talking about it, and I can stop watching this horrible train wreck, and things can just go back to nice and peaceful the way I like them.
Right.
But, you know, every year there is somebody that causes drama in the indie circle. I think last year it was the author who had bought so many copies of her book that she ended up on I think it was New York Times bestseller list.
She bought her own book?
Yeah, she went around to different Barnes and Nobles and made the limit order at each one in order to qualify to be listed. And she got herself on the list. And immediately
1,000 copies in a week or something.
Yeah, it was huge. And she immediately got called out and was not apologetic at all about her actions. And, whether right or wrong, I really don't have an opinion on the way she did it, but she caused the drama in the way marketing is done in the indie circuit. What's right, what's wrong, what's dirty marketing. And so that was last year's. Now we've got By Felina this year. So, I mean, every year there's something new that comes up.
I have an opinion on that. I'd be embarrassed and a little ashamed to have done that, honestly. I'm like, why would you even go that route? But whatever.
And it kind of negates the whole purpose of being on the bestseller list, that you earned this status.
Right.
And then I want to be there someday. But
I want people to tear my book apart. I mean, if you can't just say my book sucks and not tell me why, and then it's null and void. But if it sucks and you can tell me why, I'll take it into consideration. That's where I am right now. I wouldn't go out and purchase my own book, or set up fake reviews and some of the other things people do. It's like, no, like I really want to know if I'm doing something wrong. When I was doing music for years, we used to play shows and we were one of the better bands. I'll give you guys that. We were. I was a singer. And I used to get off stage and people ask me, how do you sing like that? And I'm like, how do you not? We practice 3 times a week, and of course, we played house blues a couple times. In the local scene, everybody here thought they were the next Bon Jovi. They walked in with the biggest persona, and arrogance, and like, oh, then they get up there, and you're like, what am I listening to? Like, are you taking yourself seriously? You know what I mean? It's just, that kind of mannerism going to a lot of,
Right. You put the effort in, you want to reap the rewards and get honest feedback on it.
Yeah. What kind of music did you make, Jackie?
It was like Tool, Deftones, Nirvana. It was rock.
Is there anything that's published that's available for people to listen to?
Well, that was years ago, man. I haven't done music in like 5 years. I mean, I still have the CDs and stuff. It's just I kind of fell out of it. I got back into writing actually because I used to write first. I started writing in junior high school. I started writing that book Martyr that I released in 2014 in a junior high school. And I just finished it 12 years later. I picked it up again to say, I got to finish it. My girlfriend found it, and she read like 2 chapters. She was like, you should finish this, and I did. But yeah, during that whole time growing up, I kind of started partying, hanging out, drinking. It's like, oh, let's do a band. It was an outlet to be creative. I'll give it that. But it just wasn't my thing. I didn't like the business side of it too much. Yeah.
Well, Katie.
Kept it civil. That was the whole point. Yeah. There'll be another issue coming up soon, I'm sure, but this one really rocketed through the indie world, and it's been all everybody could talk about for the last week. So it felt like it needed to be discussed on here on our show and just looked at for what it is.
No more drama. I hate it. Come on, just behave, guys. Be nice to everybody. Okay?
Can't we all just get along?
Gosh.
Well, hopefully we gave people some good advice to, about that. Like I said, I'm not too sure.
Basically, I think the best advice is don't suck. Just don't be a sucky person. Do good things.
Right. Like I guess that's what I was getting at, man. Like you want to be a writer, once you think you're done and you're the best you can be, you're failing right there. You're failing. You're done. Just work on your craft. You know what I mean? Just try to be better.
And don't be an asshat.
There you go. There you go. Bottom line. Don't be an asshat. I like that.
So
we put that on a sticker.
We are running towards the end of our show time, but before we go, I want to give Jane and Jackie both a chance to kind of tell us about what they're working on right now, what their newest release or their upcoming release is going to be. Jane, do you want to go first?
Sure. My next release will be out at the end of this month. It's called Tangled. It's Rapunzel rewriting.
Yes.
Katie's got it in her hands.
Yep, I'll read that. It's on the list.
Yep, and then my next big thing, once I'm done with the fairy tales, is I'm writing The Legend of the Valkyrie. So
the covers are awesome.
Oh yes, you saw the covers. I shared them. So that's sort of on my mind, and that'll be building up and coming out in 2019. But until then, I'll finish the fairy tale world.
Awesome.
Jackie, what about you?
Like I think I stated this earlier, Martyr Substance is finally on its final proofread, so that should really be out whenever I get it back and she says, hey, you're good to go, I'll upload it. And we'll get some paperback copies going of everything. But what I'm looking forward to, see, Martyr in my mind's done. You know, we're not done. It'll be 3 books. But I'm going to go ahead and start the Betwixt the Crown series. And that's the one I'm looking forward to. It's my gothic, dark, like Castlevania drama, you know. And it's very bloody, almost grotesque in certain ways, but artsy. Not just grotesque for the sake of, oh, I'm trying to shock. No, it's pretty good. It follows, there's a character, he's a Vrykolaikos. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a variation of a vampire. It's out of Greek folklore, you know. And because I want to step away from vampires, I want to do its own thing, you know. I want to set the story apart from traditional vampire stories, but it is Dark Kingdom monsters, ghouls, goblins, that kind of thing. Yeah. I'll put a preview chapter up soon. It's very difficult for me to explain my work, but I'll give you guys a good look at it. Maybe do the prologue that I wrote, put that up, and see what people think.
And we've got your link at the bottom in the show description so that our viewers can find you. Yes.
If you want to check out anything from me, I do have my short story. It's 99 cents on Amazon right now. For anybody who doesn't know my work, this is a good opportunity to, hey, it's $1. Let me check this guy out, see if he can even write. You know, this is the opportunity for anyone to do that. And if you like that, you know, please check me out. Go ahead and you can contact me on my website. You know, look at anything I'm doing in the future, upcoming novels, events, anything like that. And I'm sure I'll see Katie around the circuit here in Vegas.
I know we always run into each other. Are you part of the Henderson Writers Group?
No, I believe so.
I'm scheduled on June 4th. I'll be doing another seminar on the business side of self-publishing.
Yeah, I seen you did a couple of those at the library out there. You always do them on a Monday, though. Weren't they on Mondays?
Well, that's when they schedule me, but this is actually going to be with the Henderson Writers Group specifically. So I'll send you the link to it, but I'm going to be doing the same presentation I just did for the Paseo Verde Library. I'm going to do it for the Henderson Writers Group. I think it's June 4th. I got to double check the date.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
All right, Jason, how about you? What's going on?
Oh man, I'm writing all sorts of stuff right now. I've got like 6 unfinished projects that I'm working on right now, but none of them are perfect yet. So I keep going back through them over and over. And I'm like, man, I want to get this certain feel to them. So I just keep going back through, but that's okay because I just want to do it right. You know, I want to put out things that I can really be proud of. So I'm not going to rush through any of them, but I feel like if they're all done at the same time, I'll end up releasing 6 things at once and then not release anything for another couple of years. But
right.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys, it has been a fun talk tonight. I've got to start putting kids in bed here in Michigan, but it's been awesome to chat with you guys. Jackie, it was really good to meet you. And Jane, even though apparently I've met you before.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you again, too.
Well, yeah. Like, I'll be in touch, Jason, because I'm actually interested to read something you wrote because
awesome.
I don't think you've said any titles. I think you just talked about projects, so I'm going to find something.
Well, I'll connect with you on Facebook and we'll chat because I want to read some of your stuff too.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll definitely do it.
Cool.
Maybe we can help each other.
There you go.
I like it, man.
Connections.
All right, Katie, you want to roll us out?
All right. Well, that's been another episode of Spilling Ink, and we will be back next week with more authors to introduce you to and more topics to discuss. Feel free to like and share, hit that subscribe button, and follow us online. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.